Hello, I'm Chris Whitton, and as Director of Music, it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce each term the Burnaby Recital, normally held in the Queen's Building or the College Chapel. This term, of course, is no ordinary term, and I'm sorry to say that the recital that was scheduled to be held today, the 1st of May, given by baritone Ronan Collett and pianist Nick Rimmer, has had to be cancelled, or rather deferred. We hope very much to hold that recital at a date in 2021. But necessity is the mother of invention, and I'm delighted to be able to introduce instead a virtual Burnaby recital given by 5 members of the college from their various homes. So instead of coming to you from the Queen's Building, we are coming to you from Cambridge, from Stapleford, from London, and indeed from Cardiff. The Burnaby Fund has existed since the 1970s. It's in memory of Hugh Burnaby, who was a Fellow of the College and Dean of Chapel for over 30 years and played a very large part in the musical life of the college. He conducted, amongst other things, the college orchestra and was famous for the rowdy performances of Gilbert and Sullivan, which ended every term concert. It's rather nice that through this virtual recital, we can remember Hugh's memory not just in the confines of college, but across the country and perhaps the world. Our 5 performers today span over 50 years of the life of the college, and they introduce their music themselves. They're giving a wide range of repertoire on a series of different instruments, but I'll just tell you briefly what is coming up. Lydia Abell, who graduated in 2014, and her partner Jâms Coleman will be performing some works for viola and piano, part of the Telemann Viola Concerto and an arrangement of Schubert. John Bryden, who was up in the 1960s, is giving us a taster of his next Burnaby recital. He's actually playing the recital on 13th of November, later this year, and it will be all about Clara Schumann, the wife of Robert Schumann and one of the great Romantic pianists in her own right. Richard Latham was organ scholar in the late 1990s and director of chapel music from 2011 to 2018. And he trained as a singer after his time at Emmanuel, and he's putting both his keyboard and his singing skills to use, singing and accompanying himself in 2 songs of Schubert, Fauré's Les Roses d'Ispahan, and Vaughan Williams' wonderful song Silent Noon. Katie Lodge graduated in 2017 and went on to do a master's at the Royal Academy, and she is playing an interesting selection of trumpet pieces from the 20th century, and a bit of Haydn, I should add. And finally, an improvisation by Peter Foggitt. Peter Foggitt is our Director of Chapel Music. He's been doing that since 2018. Amongst many accolades in his career, he was a finalist in the St Albans International Organ Festival for improvisation, and I think you'll see, when you get to this point in the concert, why. He asked the members of the choir to suggest some tunes, and they picked 3 topical tunes, 2 of them topical to the current situation. One is a rather jokey tune on the subject of the new emergency service number from the IT Crowd. The other is I Will Survive. And the third tune, which is actually where his improvisation begins, is a version of the name Dame Fiona set to the notes of the musical scale, which I think you'll agree turns out to be a rather nice tune. And out of this he builds a kind of rhapsody, which I at least hear in turns as being Germanic, French, Russian, and of course British. So that's more than enough from me. With that, I leave you to enjoy this Burnaby recital and hand over to Lydia Abell.
Hello, welcome to my music room in Cardiff. My name's Lydia. I was a music student at Emma a few years ago now. I graduated in 2014 and I came back to play at the Burnaby recital a few years after that when I was studying at the Royal Academy of Music in London. It was a really nice opportunity to come back and see Emma revisit. I'm going to be playing with my partner Jâms Coleman, who's a pianist, which is very lucky to have him on hand. We're going to play the Telemann Viola Concerto for you, the first 3 movements. So the first movement is a really nice, quite stately dance and explores the range of tones that the viola has to offer from the Baroque style. The second movement is a nice upbeat allegro, and the third is a very, very beautiful slow movement. We've decided to end our segment of the recital with a Schubert song called Musik. It's a song about how music can bring us joy and peace at a time of difficulty in our life. We both love the song and thought it would be a really, really nice way to wrap things up. So hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Burnaby on Sea. I mean Burnaby Online. My name is John Bryden. I heard this story the other day. Anxious and not well-off relatives were gathered round a man in a hospital bed, awaiting the doctor's advice. They knew Alf needed a brain transplant. In came the doctor. Do you want the good news or the bad news first? The good news is that there are 2 brains available. The bad news is that the male brain is 5 times as expensive as the female brain. You see, the female brain has been used. My mother received a letter I found the other day from her professor in Glasgow University after she got a first-class degree in English literature. And I quote, "I have just got back to Glasgow. The news of the examination, of course, delighted me, and I congratulate you heartily. It's not only for your sake and the others that I am pleased, but I hope that this means the beginning of the lessening of the gap between our results and the men's. I am very, very pleased, and I know that you will be too." Girton celebrated 150 years, and Emmanuel has been celebrating this year the women that have come and given so much already. So here I turn to Clara Schumann, a woman who developed all her talents so much. And in this piece, she is using a theme by her husband, it's rather lovely, to write her own thoughts around. This is 1853, the year that the young Brahms appeared in their life too. Listen to the slight melancholy of her husband's theme, and then listen to what she does with some of the variations she wrote on it. Now she wraps her thoughts around his. In this next variation, I imagine some of their 7 children dancing down the corridor at home. And remember that Brahms was a bit like an au pair, a male au pair, doing exercises with them on the staircase. And one more variation before I hope we meet in November again.
Hello, I'm Richard Latham, and I'm going to sing 4 songs about love, about travel, and about the natural world around us. I'll begin with 2 songs from Schubert's cycle, Die schöne Müllerin, or The Beautiful Maid of the Mill. The first, Wohin, is about the narrator following the brook and how its rippling and rushing bewitches his mind. In the second song, Halt, the brook brings him to the miller's house. He wonders if this is the perfect sign that the miller's daughter is living there, and that he might meet her. I shall then sing a song by Fauré, Les Roses d'Espagne, where the poet, Le Comte de Lille, conjures up the exotic eastern world with all its spices, the ancient spice root and all the fragrances of the blossoms, but nothing compares to the beauty of the elusive lover, Layla. The final song is the famous Silent Noon by Vaughan Williams, a setting of a poem by Dante Gabriel Rossetti, from the larger collection, The House of Life. It needs very little introduction, other than it's perhaps the perfect combination of the pastoral idyll and romantic intimacy.
Ich hört ein Bächlein rauschen wohl aus dem Felsenquell, hinab zum Taler rauschen, so frisch und wunderhell. Ich weiß nicht, wie mir würde, nicht wer den Rat mir gab. Ich musste auch hinunter mit meinem Wanderstab. Ich musste auch hinunter mit meinem Wanderstab. Hinunter und immer weiter und immer dem Bache nach. Und immer frischer rauschte und immer heller der Bach. Und immer frischer rauschte und immer heller der Bach. Ist das in meiner Straße, o Bächlein, sprich wohin, wohin, sprich wohin? Du hast mit deinem Rauschen mir ganz berauscht den Sinn. Du hast mit deinem Rauschen mir ganz berauscht den Sinn. Was sag ich denn vom Rauschen? Das kann kein Rauschen sein. Es singen wohl die Nixen tief unten ihren Rhein. Es singen wohl die Nixen tief unten ihren Rhein. Lass singen, Gesell, lass rauschen und wandre fröhlich nach. Es ging ja Mühlenrede in jedem klaren Bach. Es ging ja Mühlenrede in jedem klaren Bach. Lass singen, Gesell, lass rauschen und wandre fröhlich nach, fröhlich nach, fröhlich nach. bricht rede Braus. Ei, willkommen, süßer Mühlengesang. Ei, willkommen, süßer Mühlengesang. Und das Haus wie so traulich und die Fenster wie blank und die Sonne wie helle vom Himmel sie scheint. Die Sonne wie helle vom Himmel sie scheint. Ein Bächlein, liebes Bächlein, war es also gemeint. Ein Bächlein, liebes Bächlein, war es also gemeint. War es also gemeint, war es also gemeint. Leur gaine de mousse, les jasmins de Mossoul, les fleurs de l'oranger. Ont un parfum moins frais, ont une odeur moins douce. Ô blanche Leila, que ton souffle léger corail, ton rire léger sonne mieux que l'eau vive et d'une voix plus douce. Mieux que le vent joyeux qui berce l'oranger, mieux que l'oiseau qui chante au bord d'un nid d'amousse. Depuis que de leur vol léger tous les baisers enfuient de ta lèvre si douce, il n'est plus de parfum dans la pâle orangerie, ni de céleste arôme rose dans la mousse. Ce papillon léger revienne vers mon cœur d'une aile prompte et douce, et qu'il parfume encore la fleur de l'oranger, les roses disparaissent dans leur gaine de mousse. Hands lie open in the long fresh grass. The finger points look through like rosy blooms. Your eyes smile peace. Pasture gleams and glooms neath billowing skies that scatter and amass. A golden kingcup fills with silver edge, where the cow parsley skirts the hawthorn hedge. 'Tis visible silence, still as the hourglass. Deep in the sunset growths, the dragonfly hangs like a blue thread loosened from the sky. So this winged eye is dropped to us from above. Oh, clasp we to our hearts, for deathless star, this close companion in articulate art. When twofold silence was the song. The song of love.
Hi everyone, my name is Katie and I studied music at Emmanuel College from 2014 to 2017. Having completed my Masters at the Royal Academy of Music, I'm now trying to be a freelance trumpeter. But most of all, I'm really excited to play for you today. Thank you very much to Sarah Bendel and the Burnaby Fund for having me. So I hope you enjoy it. My first piece that I would like to play for you is Peter Maxwell Davies's Sonatina for solo trumpet. This is a very short piece and divided into 3 movements, each of which has a distinct character. The piece is also designed to show a lot of extended techniques on the trumpet. A little bit about Peter Maxwell Davies himself. He studied at the University of Manchester, and from there he really wanted to push the boundaries of modern music. He was no stranger to parody and rebellion. However, he became a serious national figure as Master of the Queen's Music in 2004. So, this is his Sonatina for solo trumpet, written in 1981. next piece I'm going to play for you is a study written by the French composer Marcel Biche. Studies are famously unaccompanied, and some are deliberately tricky because they're written as a test of our technique. However, amongst many French composers, they took it upon themselves to create studies that were really beautiful, focusing on the style of the music. This particular one is a minuet, which is originally a courtly dance and has since been used by composers in lots of instrumental works. A minuet has 3 beats in a bar and is much more stately than a waltz. I'd like you to think about the elegance of a ballroom when we play this piece. The next piece I'd like to play for you is much more famous in our repertoire because it came about at a really important time in the trumpet's development. This piece is the second movement of Haydn's Trumpet Concerto, and it is written for a keyed trumpet, which was wildly different to whatever the trumpet was before. Before, it used to be just one long pipe without any buttons. However, the addition of different keys means that we can play much more chromatically, and the whole world of notes was open to us. So you can definitely hear that in this piece. I think it's a really beautiful melody despite not being the most well known of the movements, and I really hope you enjoy it. final piece I'm going to play for you is one of my favourite tunes of all time, and it's Someone to Watch Over Me from George Gershwin's musical OK. In this particular piece, I am told to use the flugelhorn, which is different to my trumpet. They have the same range, however, I find there's a really, really nice darkness to the sound, which the trumpet doesn't quite achieve because of the different flair of the bell. You may or may not have seen this instrument before if you've seen Brassed Off in the performance of the Theatre de Alenquer. However, this time it's Someone to Watch Over Me by George Gershwin.
Well, I've been to many Burnaby concerts in my time, but that one I think tops the lot. It's wonderful to have such a diverse and homegrown group of people making beautiful music for us, even though we can't all be together. So thank you so much, Lydia, who, it's been a long time since I've seen you, Lydia, but I remember us playing the viola side by side in a very early performance or run through of Handel's Messiah when I was new as master. John, and I love your jumper. John, thank you so much for that beautiful music and exposition of Clara Schumann. Ricky, your songs were just beautiful and brought back some of your lovely music making in Emma. Katie, wonderful to see you, and your trumpet playing is as glorious and as moving as ever. And finally, Peter, and your lovely exposition on Dame Fiona couldn't be nicer. Thank you so much for your final improvisation. I do hope it won't be long before we see you together again back in Emma. But it's wonderful that we've been able to put together this very special Burnaby concert. A big thank you to Sarah in particular for making it happen, and to all of you who've joined us. Keep safe and well, and we hope to see you soon. Goodbye.